The wine glass trembled in Vanessa Brown's hand as Marcus leaned across the restaurant table, his smile sharp enough to cut. "You're talking too much again," he said in Korean, quiet enough that the other diners couldn't hear. Then in English, louder, cheerful, "Baby, you know how I love when you share your opinions, but these people don't care about your little cultural observations." Vanessa's throat tightened. She set down the glass carefully, precisely, the way she'd learned to do everything around Marcus. No sudden movements. No reactions that could be called dramatic later. I know what you were just doing." His hand covered hers, squeezed just a fraction too hard. To anyone watching, it looked affectionate. "We'll talk about it when we get home. You're dead when we get home." He laughed, like it was an inside joke. It wasn't. Vanessa had heard that phrase 17 times in the past 3 months. It always meant the same thing, hours of circular arguments where Marcus picked apart everything she'd said, done, worn. Where he'd sigh like she was exhausting him. Where he'd eventually forgive her with the weariness of a saint. She was so focused on keeping her expression neutral that she didn't notice the man at the corner table had stopped eating. Didn't notice how his fingers had gone still on his chopsticks. Didn't notice the way his dark eyes had fixed on Marcus with the intensity of a predator spotting prey. Welcome back to Afro-Korean Obsession. Like and subscribe for more. In-soo had been having a perfectly adequate dinner until he'd heard that sentence in Korean. "You're dead when we get home." Followed by that laugh. That particular laugh he'd heard from weak men his entire life, the sound of someone who hurt people smaller than themselves and called it love. His second-in-command, Vanessa, shifted uncomfortably beside him. "Boss?" In-soo didn't answer. He was watching the woman. She was beautiful, dark skin that caught the restaurant's soft lighting, natural hair pulled back in a way that showed off her bone structure, intelligence in her eyes that she was trying very hard to dim. She wore a white blouse and black slacks. Professional. The kind of woman who'd worked hard to be taken seriously. And the man across from her was slowly, methodically, erasing her. "Find out who he is," In-soo said quietly. "Everything." "The woman too?" "Especially the woman." Vanessa was halfway through her morning coffee at her favorite cafe near Gangnam Station when a folder appeared on her table. She looked up into the face of a man who seemed constructed from shadows and expensive fabric. Dark suit, perfectly tailored. Black hair styled with the kind of careless precision that took effort. And tattoos, she could see the edge of something dark and intricate creeping up from his collar, disappearing beneath his jaw. "Vanessa Brown," he said. His voice was low, barely above a murmur, with a Seoul accent that spoke of old money and older power. Cultural consultant for Hanseong Group. Master's degree in East Asian Studies from Oxford. Currently in a relationship with Marcus Choi, Seaware analyst at his father's investment firm. Vanessa's fingers froze on her coffee cup. "I'm sorry, who?" Marcus Choi is also currently running a side operation stealing proprietary information from Hanseong Group to sell to a competitor. He slid the folder closer. "Using your access credentials. Without your knowledge." The cafe noise seemed to fade into white static. Vanessa stared at the folder like it might bite her. I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know you, so." In-soo. He sat down across from her without invitation, the movement fluid and controlled. "And yes, you do know what I'm talking about. You've noticed the questions. The way he's suddenly interested in your work. How he asks you to leave your laptop open when you shower." Vanessa's stomach dropped. Because yes, she had noticed. And she told herself she was being paranoid, because Marcus said she was always being paranoid, always so suspicious. "He's been using you for 6 months. In-soo's eyes were dark, fathomless. "The company he's selling to is a front for a criminal organization. When this comes to light, and it will, you'll be the one they blame. You have the access. The language skills. The motive, since you were passed over for promotion twice. How do you," her voice cracked. "How do you know about the promotions?" Something flickered in his expression. Almost like regret. "Because I own the organization Marcus is selling to. And when I found out he was using an innocent woman as a shield, I decided that wasn't acceptable." The world tilted sideways. Vanessa gripped the table edge. You're a criminal. And you're telling me my boyfriend is selling corporate secrets to you? Was selling? I terminated the arrangement yesterday. In-soo leaned back, and she caught a better glimpse of the tattoo. It was a dragon, she realized. Black and gray, scales so detailed they seemed to shift in the light. I don't work with men who threaten women in restaurants. Her breath stopped. You were there. 3 days ago. I was. And you've been, what? Following me? Investigating me? Protecting you. He said it like the distinction was obvious. Marcus is going to realize soon that his income stream has dried up. He'll panic. Panicked men make mistakes. Those mistakes will involve you. Vanessa should leave. Should grab her bag and run and call the police, and the police won't help you. In-soo's voice was quiet, almost gentle. Like he could read her mind. Marcus's father has connections. You're a foreign woman with access to sensitive information. Who do you think they'll believe? This is insane. But Vanessa was already opening the folder with shaking hands. Inside were printouts, bank transfers, screenshots of conversations. Her login credentials being used at 3 a.m. when she'd been asleep beside Marcus. Oh my God. There's more. In-soo pulled out a second, thinner folder. Marcus has done this before. In university, a classmate took the fall for his plagiarism. At his previous job, an intern was fired for his insider trading. He finds people who trust him, uses them, and disappears them when they're no longer useful. The coffee in Vanessa's stomach turned to acid. Why are you telling me this? Her voice came out strangled. What do you want? I want you to work for me. Vanessa laughed. It sounded slightly hysterical even to her own ears. Work for you. The criminal. Instead of being with my boyfriend. The other criminal. I'm offering you a choice Marcus never did. In-soo's gaze was steady, unwavering. Work as a cultural consultant for my legitimate businesses. I have hotels, restaurants, real estate. All legal. All requiring someone who understands both Korean and Western business practices. I'll pay you triple your current salary. And the illegal businesses? You'll never be involved in those. You'll never even know about them. He paused. Marcus can't touch you if you're under my protection. Protection. The word tasted bitter. You mean ownership. I mean safety. For the first time, something like emotion crossed his face. Anger, maybe. Cold and controlled. I watched that man threaten you in a public place and smile about it. I watched you try to make yourself smaller. I don't do that to people who work for me. Vanessa wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he was crazy, that she could handle this herself, that she didn't need some tattooed gangster playing white knight. But her hands were still shaking. And Marcus had told her last night that she was lucky he put up with her when she'd questioned why he needed her laptop password. I need to think about it, she whispered. In-soo stood, smooth and unhurried. He placed a business card on the table. Heavy cardstock, minimalist design. Just a name and a number. You have until Marcus figures out I cut him off. I'd estimate that gives you 36 hours. He buttoned his suit jacket. After that, he'll come for you. And Vanessa. She looked up at him, this dangerous stranger who knew everything about her life. When he does, I won't ask permission to stop him. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with 2 folders that proved her entire relationship was a lie and a business card that felt like a bomb in her hands. 28 hours later. Marcus's smile was poison sweet when Vanessa came home from work. Hey baby, he said from the couch, laptop open. Her laptop. We need to talk about something. Vanessa's keys felt heavy in her hand. She'd spent the past day reading and rereading those folders. Crying in her office bathroom. Calling the Oxford friend who'd introduced her to Marcus, who'd admitted, voice tight with guilt, that Marcus had asked a lot of questions about her before they'd accidentally met. It had all been planned. All of it. Okay, she said carefully. There's been some irregularities with your work login. Marcus's voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp. Someone using your credentials to access files they shouldn't. I'm worried you might be in trouble. The performance was almost beautiful in its audacity. He was going to frame her right here, right now, with concern in his voice and betrayal already drafted. Really, Vanessa said flatly. How worried? Something flickered in Marcus's expression. What's that tone? The tone of someone who's seen the bank transfers, Marcus. She was shaking again, but this time with rage instead of fear. The screenshots. The pattern you've apparently been running since university. Marcus stood slowly. Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? It matters if you've been discussing our relationship with strangers. You know how paranoid you get. I'm not paranoid. The words burst out before Vanessa could stop them. You've been gaslighting me for 6 months while committing corporate espionage with my credentials. Gaslighting. Marcus's laugh was sharp. There it is. You've been reading those feminist blogs again. Baby, you're confused. I have documentation. The air in the apartment changed. Marcus's expression went flat in a way that made Vanessa's hindbrain scream danger. What documentation? From who? It doesn't. Marcus crossed the space between them in 3 strides, grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, never hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to stop her from moving. Who have you been talking to? The door opened. Vanessa didn't hear a knock, didn't hear a lock being picked, but suddenly Soo was there, filling the doorway with quiet menace. Me, he said. She's been talking to me. Marcus dropped Vanessa's wrist like it had burned him. Who the hell, Soo? His face went white. What are you doing here? Told you, Soo said to Vanessa, ignoring Marcus entirely. 36 hours. I was generous with my estimate. You know each other? Vanessa looked between them. Marcus sells information to my competitors. Or he did, until I found out he was using you. Soo stepped into the apartment. 2 men followed him, huge, expressionless, the kind of men who made violence look casual. I don't appreciate that. This is insane. Marcus's voice pitched high. Vanessa, this man is a criminal. So are you, Vanessa said quietly. At least he's honest about it. Soo's eyes met hers across the room. Something passed between them, acknowledgement, maybe. Respect. I didn't touch her, Marcus said quickly, backing up. I never hurt her, I never. You did worse. Soo's voice was soft, almost conversational. You made her doubt herself. Made her small. Made her think she was lucky you tolerated her existence. He tilted his head slightly. That's a special kind of cruelty. She can make her own choices. Then let her. Soo looked at Vanessa again. Do you want to stay with him? It should have been complicated. Should have required thought, processing, maybe therapy. But standing in her apartment with her wrist still tingling from Marcus's grip, looking at the man who'd spent 6 months systematically destroying her confidence while stealing her future, the answer was crystalline. No. Then pack a bag, Soo said. You're coming with me. Vanessa had imagined many things when she'd pictured leaving Marcus. Screaming matches. Tears. Police involvement, maybe, or a dramatic confrontation where she finally said everything she'd swallowed for months. She hadn't imagined packing a duffel bag in complete silence while 3 men watched Marcus like hawks tracking a mouse. This is kidnapping, Marcus tried, his voice thin. I'll call the police. Do it. Soo was examining Marcus's laptop with the casual interest of someone browsing a menu. I'm sure they'd be very interested in what's on here. All those deleted files. The cryptocurrency wallets. The conversations with. He squinted at the screen. Is that your department head secretary? Marcus, you're even more careless than I thought. Marcus's face went from white to gray. Vanessa zipped her bag. Toiletries, clothes, her passport, the important things. Everything else in this apartment was already tainted. She'd bleach the memories out later. I loved you, Marcus said suddenly, desperately, looking at her. Everything I did for us. You threatened to kill me 3 days ago. Vanessa's voice was steady now, crystallized by fury. In a restaurant. In Korean, because you thought I wouldn't understand the weight of it. You said, you're dead when we get home, and laughed. It's just an expression. In Korean, that phrase is what abusers say before they beat their wives. Soo's voice cut through the room like a blade. Everyone knows that. You knew that. He closed the laptop with a decisive snap. I'm keeping this. Evidence. For what? For when your father tries to retaliate against Vanessa. Soo stood, buttoned his jacket. The dragon tattoo shifted at his collar, scales catching light. If anything happens to her, anything, Marcus, Even a bad performance review or a denied visa application, this laptop and all its contents go to the prosecutor's office. Your father's firm will be investigated. You'll be charged. And unlike Vanessa, you won't have anyone to protect you in prison. The threat hung in the air, solid and absolute. Marcus looked at Vanessa one last time. She saw the calculation in his eyes, the momentary consideration of whether she was worth fighting for. She saw the exact second he decided she wasn't. Fine, he spat. Take her. She's more trouble than she's worth anyway. And there it was. 6 months of I love you and you're the one and I'm so lucky to have you, reduced to their true value. Nothing. Vanessa picked up her bag. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. Let's go, she said to Insu. The car was expensive in that understated way that screamed old money. Vanessa sat in the back seat next to Insu, the city lights of Seoul streaming past the tinted windows in ribbons of neon and shadow. Neither of them spoke for 5 minutes. Then, where are we going? Safe house in Hanam-dong. Insu was looking at his phone, scrolling through something with focused intensity. 2 bedrooms, full security. You'll stay there until we're sure Marcus won't try anything stupid. And then you decide if you want to work for me. Or I can arrange a flight back to the States, or the UK, or wherever you want to go. With enough money to start over. Vanessa turned to look at him properly for the first time since they'd left. The dragon tattoo extended up the side of his neck, disappearing into his hairline. Traditional Korean style, all black and gray, breathtakingly detailed. The work of a master. You really just ended his operation. Because you saw him threaten me in a restaurant. Yes. That doesn't make sense. You're a criminal. Why would you care? Insu was quiet for a long moment, his profile sharp against the window. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard it. My mother was in a relationship like yours. When I was young, he never hit her either. Just made her smaller and smaller until she disappeared into herself. His jaw tightened. By the time I was old enough to understand what was happening, she'd stopped trying to leave. Said she loved him. Said he needed her. What happened? He drove drunk. Killed them both. My mother died telling the EMTs it was her fault for distracting him. Insu's fingers flexed on his phone, just once. I was 14. I decided then that I would never allow that kind of man to operate in my sight without consequences. The casual way he said it, like he'd been making life-altering moral decisions at an age when Vanessa had been worried about algebra tests, was somehow more unsettling than the confession itself. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't be. It made me who I am. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were dark and fathomless and far too knowing. The question is who you'll choose to be now. The safe house was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than Vanessa's yearly salary, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Completely impersonal. The kind of place where people pass through but never stayed. Guest room is on the right, Insu said, setting down her bag. Master bedroom is mine. You'll have privacy. I won't be here most days. I'll have someone check on you daily. Food, supplies, anything you need. Vanessa stood in the middle of the pristine living room and felt suddenly, utterly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation was draining away, leaving her hollow. I don't understand why you're doing this, she said to Insu's back as he moved toward the kitchen. You don't know me. And you're right, I have no reason to trust you. You're a criminal who's been stalking me for days. This should be terrifying. Should be, Insu agreed. He was pulling out a bottle of whiskey, 2 glasses. But it isn't. Is it? And that was the thing, wasn't it? By all logic, Vanessa should be planning her escape right now. Should be terrified of this tattooed stranger who'd inserted himself into her life and extracted her from her apartment like she was a chess piece. But when she'd watched him confront Marcus, she'd felt safe for the first time in months. No, she admitted. It isn't. Which might mean I'm broken. You're not broken. Insu poured 2 fingers of whiskey into each glass, slid one across the marble counter to her. You're a woman who's spent 6 months being systematically convinced that her perception of reality was faulty. That's not broken. That's trauma. He said it so matter-of-factly. Like trauma was just another item on a list, something to be acknowledged and dealt with. Vanessa took the glass. You're surprisingly well-informed about emotional abuse for a crime lord. I read. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. And I pay a therapist a concerning amount of money to explain human behavior to me. Your therapist knows you're in organized crime? She's very expensive. And very discreet. Now Insu did smile, just slightly. It transformed his face, made him look younger. Almost human. Also, she says my self-awareness about my morally ambiguous lifestyle choices is refreshingly honest. Despite everything, despite the insanity of this entire day, Vanessa laughed. It came out slightly strangled, teetering on the edge of hysterical, but it was real. You have a therapist who quotes things back to you in air quotes. Dr. Kim is a treasure. Insu raised his glass in a small toast. To escaping men who make you feel small. Vanessa clinked her glass against his. The whiskey burned going down, warm and grounding. To tattooed criminals with surprisingly functional emotional processing skills. I have many skills. Insu's eyes held hers over the rim of his glass. Most of them are illegal. Some of them are even useful. There was something in the way he said it, dry, self-aware, with that undercurrent of dark humor, that made Vanessa's stomach flip in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Oh no, she thought. I'm attracted to the crime boss. Marcus literally just threatened me hours ago, and I'm attracted to the man who rescued me. That's not healthy. That's probably a whole therapy session. I can hear you thinking, Insu said mildly. Your face does this thing when you're having an internal crisis. Your left eyebrow twitches. It does not. Vanessa clapped a hand over her eyebrow. It does. He was definitely almost smiling now. You did it in the restaurant when Marcus told you to stop talking. You did it in the car when I mentioned my mother. You're doing it now. Stop profiling me. It's creepy. I'm observant. There's a difference. Observant is noticing someone's coffee order. This is, Vanessa gestured vaguely with her whiskey glass. This is knowing someone's tells like you're counting cards. I do that too. Insu set down his glass. Count cards. I'm banned from 3 casinos in Macau. Of course you are. Vanessa drained the rest of her whiskey in one burning swallow. Okay. Ground rules. If I'm staying here, even temporarily, I need to know what I'm dealing with. What exactly do you do? The illegal parts. Insu studied her for a long moment. She had the sense he was weighing something, deciding how much truth she could handle. I run an organization that operates in gray and black markets, he said finally. We handle acquisitions. Of information, mostly. Some goods. We broker deals between people who can't do business in legitimate channels. That's incredibly vague. It's intentionally vague. His eyes were sharp again, assessing. The specifics would implicate you. I'm trying to avoid that. But you do hurt people. Yes. No hesitation. When necessary. When they're a threat. When they've broken agreements that keep other people safe. Have you killed people? Yes. The word hung between them, stark and unadorned. Vanessa should be running. Should be calling every emergency number she knew. This man had just admitted to murder with the same casual tone most people used to discuss their morning commute. But she was thinking about Marcus's face when Insu had walked into the apartment. The terror, instant and visceral. The way he'd backed up like Insu was death incarnate. Marcus is afraid of you, she said. He should be. Will you kill him? Not unless he tries to hurt you. Insu's voice was soft, almost gentle. I'm not a monster, Vanessa. I don't kill people for inconveniencing me. But if he comes after you, if he tries to salvage his reputation by destroying yours, then yes. I will. He said it like a promise. Like a vow. And God help her, Vanessa believed him. I should be horrified, she whispered. Should be, Insu agreed. He moved around the counter, closing the distance between them until he was close enough that she could see the individual scales of the dragon tattoo, could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated, cedar and smoke. But you're not. Because you're smart enough to know the difference between men who hide their violence and men who own it. That's a hell of a justification. It's not justification. It's fact. His hand came up, slowly, telegraphing the movement, and gently tucked a curl behind her ear that had escaped her bun. The touch was featherlight, there and gone. Marcus pretended to be safe while slowly poisoning you. I'm telling you exactly what I am. Which of us is more dangerous? Vanessa's breath caught. Because he was right, wasn't he? Marcus had been insidious, a slow leak of toxicity that she hadn't noticed until she was drowning. Insu was a blade in broad daylight, dangerous, yes, but honest about it. You're very good at this, she managed. At what? Making terrible decisions sound reasonable. That almost smile again. I've had practice. Get some sleep, Vanessa. Tomorrow we'll discuss your options. Tonight you're safe. That's enough. He stepped back, creating distance, and Vanessa felt the loss of his proximity like a physical thing. Insu. He paused at the hallway entrance, looked back. Thank you, she said quietly. For caring when you didn't have to. Something crossed his face, too quick to name, but it looked almost like pain. Get some rest, he said again, and disappeared down the hallway. Vanessa stood alone in the beautiful, sterile living room, a whiskey glass warm in her hands, and wondered what the hell she'd just gotten herself into. 3 days later. Vanessa was supposed to be reviewing the contract Insu had presented that morning. Cultural consultant for his legitimate businesses, triple her previous salary, a clause that explicitly stated she would never be involved in illegal operations. Instead, she was standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the sunset paint the Han River in shades of orange and pink, and thinking about the way Insu had looked at her over breakfast. He'd been staying at the safe house. Security purposes, he'd said, but Vanessa suspected it was because he didn't trust her not to spiral into panic or, worse, try to go back to Marcus. He was right to worry. She'd woken up at 3 a.m. the first night, gasping from a nightmare where Marcus had convinced everyone she was crazy, where Insu had never shown up at the restaurant, where she was still stuck in that slow-motion drowning. She'd found Insu in the living room, working on his laptop, the dragon tattoo vivid against his neck in the blue screen glow. He'd made her tea without asking. Some Korean blend that tasted like comfort and smoke. Had sat with her in silence until the panic subsided, never once demanding she explain or justify or be anything other than shaken. The second night, she'd found him doing push-ups in the living room at 5 a.m., shirtless, and had gotten an eyeful of the full tattoo artwork. The dragon wrapped around his torso, so detailed she could see individual scales, flowers, waves. A masterpiece. He'd caught her staring. Had raised an eyebrow. She'd fled to her room. Now it was the third evening, and Vanessa was beginning to understand that the danger Insu posed had nothing to do with his criminal empire, and everything to do with the way her heart rate spiked when he was near. You're overthinking the contract. Vanessa jumped. She hadn't heard him approach. The man moved like smoke. I'm not overthinking, she lied. I'm being thorough. Insu came to stand beside her at the window, hands in his pockets. Today he was in casual clothes, black jeans, a fitted black t-shirt that did absolutely nothing to hide his build. The tattoo crept up from the collar, a constant reminder that he was beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. You've read page 3 17 times, he said mildly. Either it's fascinating or you're avoiding a decision. Maybe it's fascinating. It's a non-compete clause. It's not fascinating. He turned to look at her, and his eyes were knowing. What are you afraid of? I'm not, Vanessa stopped. Because he'd been nothing but honest with her, hadn't he? I'm afraid I'm making this decision for the wrong reasons. Which are? Because you're. She gestured vaguely at all of him. You. Because you showed up when I was drowning and pulled me out. Because I'm probably projecting every rescue fantasy I've ever had onto a man who's admitted to killing people. That's not healthy. No, Insu agreed. It's not. Vanessa blinked. You're supposed to reassure me. I don't lie. His gaze was steady, unflinching. You are projecting. I did show up at a vulnerable moment. And you're attracted to me, probably for all the wrong psychological reasons. Oh my God. Vanessa covered her face with her hands. You're not supposed to just say it. Why not? It's true. She heard amusement in his voice. But Vanessa, here's what's also true. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met. You have 2 degrees, you speak 3 languages fluently, and you've built a career in a foreign country through pure competence. That doesn't disappear because one manipulative man spent 6 months undermining you. She lowered her hands. In-soo was closer now, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. You don't know me well enough to say that. I've spent 3 days watching you rebuild yourself in real time. His voice dropped lower, intimate. I've watched you research my company, verify every claim I made, contact 3 of my business references without telling me. I've watched you create a spreadsheet analyzing whether my salary offer is fair market value. You're not a victim, Vanessa. You're a strategist who got ambushed. Something in her chest cracked open. Because no one, not her colleagues, not her friends, certainly not Marcus, had ever described her that way. Like she was capable. Powerful. Not despite her vulnerability, but because she'd survived it. The contract is fair, she said, her voice not quite steady. The terms are generous. The non-compete is standard. I'd be an idiot not to sign it. But I don't trust myself right now. I don't trust that I'm thinking clearly. She forced herself to hold his gaze. I don't trust that I'm not just trading one dangerous man for another. In-soo was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He stepped back, creating distance between them. Then don't sign it, he said simply. Take the week. Stay here or don't. I'll cover a hotel if you prefer. At the end of 7 days, if you still want to work for me, the contract stands. If not, I'll arrange that flight I mentioned. Either way, you're safe from Marcus. That doesn't change. Why? The word burst out before Vanessa could stop it. Why do you care? I'm nobody to you. You could have left me in that restaurant and none of this would be your problem. Something flickered in In-soo's eyes, that same expression from 3 days ago, too quick to name. Because I watched my mother disappear, he said quietly. And I swore I'd never let it happen again within my power to stop it. You can call that a savior complex. You can call it arrogance. But it's the truth. He turned to leave, and Vanessa's hand shot out, catching his wrist. Wait. He stopped. Looked down at where her fingers wrapped around the dark ink of his forearm. More tattoos there, she realized, geometric patterns and Korean characters she couldn't quite read. I don't think you have a savior complex, she said. I think you're a man who watched something terrible happen and decided to turn it into something else. That's not arrogance. That's alchemy. In-soo's eyes darkened. Alchemy. Turning pain into power. Trauma into purpose. Vanessa realized she was still holding his wrist and didn't let go. I'm not your mother, In-soo. You can't save her by saving me. I know that. Do you? For the first time since she'd met him, In-soo looked uncertain. Young. Almost vulnerable. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe I'm not as self-aware as my therapist thinks. Vanessa laughed, surprised and genuine. Well, at least you're honest about it. Always. His free hand came up, mirroring her gesture from the restaurant, and tucked another escaped curl behind her ear. But this time his hand lingered, fingers tracing the curve of her jaw with devastating gentleness. I'm going to kiss you now. If you don't want that, tell me to stop. Her heart was a drum against her ribs. That's a terrible idea. Probably. I just got out of a toxic relationship. I'm emotionally compromised. This is textbook rebound behavior. Yes. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and Vanessa's breath stuttered. Tell me to stop, Vanessa. She should. God, she should. This was every red flag, every warning sign, every piece of advice she'd give a friend wrapped up in one devastatingly attractive package. But In-soo was looking at her like she was something precious. Like she was powerful. Like she was a choice he was making with full knowledge of the consequences. Not like someone he was tolerating. Not like someone he was fixing. Like someone he wanted with the kind of intensity that should have been frightening, but instead felt like the first honest thing she'd experienced in months. I'm not going to tell you to stop, Vanessa whispered. In-soo's eyes flashed triumph, hunger, something darker and more complex, and then his mouth was on hers. The kiss was nothing like she expected. Gentle at first, questioning, giving her space to change her mind. His hand cradled her jaw like she was something breakable, something worth savoring. And when she made a small sound and pressed closer, when her fingers tightened on his wrist, he deepened the kiss with a control that made her knees weak. This was a man who knew exactly what he wanted and exactly how to take it without taking too much. When they broke apart, Vanessa was breathing hard, her back against the window, In-su's forehead resting against hers. "Still a terrible idea?" he murmured. "The worst." Her hands had somehow migrated to his chest, could feel his heart beating steady and strong under her palms. "I'm still not signing that contract tonight." "Good." He kissed her again, briefer this time, almost chaste. "You shouldn't make major life decisions when I'm kissing you. That would be coercion. You're very principled for a criminal." "I have standards." In-su stepped back, and Vanessa immediately missed his warmth. "I'm going out. Business. I'll be back late." "Don't wait up." "What kind of business?" "The kind you don't need to know about yet." He was already moving toward the door, grabbing his jacket, transforming back into the dangerous man she'd met in the cafe. "Lock the door behind me. Security code is 0514. Don't open it for anyone but me or Minesio. In-su." He paused at the door, looked back. In the fading sunset light, the dragon tattoo seemed to move, seemed alive. "Be safe," Vanessa said, and meant it with an intensity that surprised her. Something softened in his expression. "Always am." Then he was gone, and Vanessa was alone with a contract she wasn't going to sign tonight and the taste of him still on her lips. Day 5. Vanessa signed the contract over breakfast while In-su watched her with those dark, knowing eyes. "You're sure?" he asked, though he had to know the answer. Had probably known it the moment she'd kissed him back. "I'm sure." She slid the papers across the table. "When do I start?" "Monday. I have a meeting with a hotel developer who thinks international expansion means putting kimchi on the breakfast menu and calling it fusion. You'll explain why that's offensive and help me not lose my temper. So I'm a buffer between you and cultural ignorance?" Among other things. In-su's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. "Marcus filed a police report. Says you stole his laptop and personal documents." Vanessa's coffee cup froze halfway to her mouth. "What?" "He's claiming you've been working with a criminal organization, unnamed, conveniently, and that he has evidence you've been selling corporate secrets." In-su's voice was flat, emotionless, which somehow made it more terrifying. "He's trying to flip the script. Make himself the victim." "Can he do that?" "I have the evidence. Evidence I acquired through illegal means, which makes it inadmissible." In-su was already texting rapidly, his jaw tight. "He's smarter than I gave him credit for. Or his father's lawyers are." Vanessa set down her coffee cup before she dropped it. Her hands were shaking again. "So, what do we do?" "We." In-su looked up, and something flickered in his expression. Not surprise, exactly. More like satisfaction. Like she'd passed a test she hadn't known she was taking. "Yes, we." Vanessa leaned forward. "You said I'm a strategist who got ambushed. So let's strategize. What are options?" In-su studied her for a long moment, then smiled. A real smile this time, sharp and pleased and genuinely impressed. "Our options are limited by legality, which is tedious." He set down his phone. "I could make Marcus disappear, but you'd know, and that would complicate things between us." "Very considerate." "I could have my lawyers bury him in countersuits, but that's expensive and public and draws attention to you that you don't need." He drummed his fingers on the table, the first nervous gesture she'd seen from him. "Or we could give the police what they actually want, the real criminal network Marcus was selling to." Vanessa blinked. "You mean, you'd turn yourself in?" "God, no. I'm not that selfless." In-su's smile turned sharp. "I'd give them the competitors who were buying from Marcus. The ones I shut down. Let them think they've uncovered a major intelligence ring, which they have. Just not my ring." "That's..." Vanessa tried to find the word. "That's brilliant." "And morally ambiguous. I contain multitudes." He was texting again, rapid fire. "It'll take 48 hours to set up. Meanwhile, you'll need to make a statement to the police. Tell them the truth. You discovered Marcus was using your credentials, you confronted him, he became aggressive, you left. Don't mention me. They'll ask where I've been staying." "With a friend." You met her at a language exchange. Her name is Min Kim, and she'll corroborate your story. In-su's eyes met hers. She's one of mine. Completely legitimate. Runs a gallery in Samcheong-dong. She's expecting your call. Vanessa's head was spinning trying to keep up. You have an art dealer on retainer for fake alibis? I have a lot of people on retainer for a lot of things. Min is brilliant, by the way. You'll like her. She'll probably try to recruit you for her gallery board. I'm going to need a flowchart of your organization. No, you're not. That's the point of compartmentalization. In-su stood, came around the table, and tilted her chin up with one finger. You're going to be fine, Vanessa. I promise. You can't promise that. I can and I do. His thumb brushed her lower lip again, that same devastating gentleness. Because men like Marcus? They're bullies. And bullies fold when someone punches back harder. And you're the harder punch. I'm the avalanche, baby. He kissed her, quick and claiming. He brought a knife to a tactical nuclear strike. Despite everything, despite the police report and the fear and the insanity of her new life, Vanessa laughed. Your metaphors need work. Noted. Another kiss, deeper this time. Go call Min. I have some people to ruin. The police interview was exactly as terrible as Vanessa expected. 2 detectives, both male, both looking at her with the particular skepticism reserved for foreign women involved in Korean corporate crime. They asked the same questions 17 different ways. How did you discover the breach? When did you confront Mr. Choi? Where have you been staying? Who is this friend? Vanessa stuck to the script In-su had prepared. Simple. Factual. Boring. She did not mention tattooed crime lords or stolen laptops or the way Marcus had systematically destroyed her sense of reality for 6 months. After 2 hours, they let her go with a warning not to leave Seoul. Min was waiting in the lobby, petite, elegant, with silver hair cut in a sharp bob and the kind of effortless style that made Vanessa feel underdressed in her business casual. You must be Vanessa. Min's English was perfect, British accented. In-su said you'd need a friend. Come on, I'm taking you for lunch. You look like you need soju and fried chicken. I barely know you. Exactly. Easier to vent to a stranger. Min linked her arm through Vanessa's and steered her toward the exit. Also, In-su will absolutely interrogate me about your emotional state later, so I need details for my report. Despite herself, Vanessa smiled. He's that predictable? Oh, honey. That man has been obsessed with you since the moment he saw Marcus threaten you. I've known In-su for 8 years, and I've never seen him like this. Min's eyes sparkled with mischief. It's delightful. He's usually so controlled. We're not. It's not. Please. I've seen the way he looks at you. That's not protection, that's possession. Min flagged down a taxi with the efficiency of someone used to being obeyed. The question is whether you're okay with that. Vanessa climbed into the taxi, mind spinning. I don't know what I'm okay with anymore. Then let's figure it out over alcohol and carbs. It's the Korean way. For hours later, Vanessa was pleasantly buzzed and significantly more informed about In-su's operation than she'd expected. He's not actually that bad, Min was saying, pouring another shot of soju. They were in a private room at a Pojangmaka in Hongdae, the kind of place that felt like a secret. I mean, yes, organized crime, morally dubious, occasionally frightening. But he has rules. No drugs. No human trafficking. No harming civilians. He mostly just facilitates transactions between people who can't use banks. That's still illegal. Sure. But there's illegal and there's evil. Min clinked her shot glass against Vanessa's. In-su's illegal. Marcus? Marcus is evil. There's a difference. Vanessa downed the shot, felt the burn. You sound like him. I've known him since we were kids. Same neighborhood. His mom used to babysit me. Min's expression softened. He was a good kid who had terrible things happen to him. Now he's a complicated adult who tries to prevent terrible things from happening to other people. It's not redemption, exactly, but it's something. You love him. Like a brother. An occasionally homicidal brother who makes terrible life choices and has commitment issues. Min grinned. Which is why I'm thrilled he's finally found someone who challenges him. You don't seem scared of him at all. Should I be? Probably. But the fact that you're not is why this might actually work. Minmin's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled. Speaking of which, your crime lord is checking in. He wants to know if you're drunk. Tell him I'm culturally integrating. Minmin texted rapidly, laughed at the response. He says if you're culturally integrating, you should be singing karaoke by now. Also, he's sending a car to take you home. Home. The word felt strange in Vanessa's mouth. The safe house wasn't home. But her apartment with Marcus certainly wasn't anymore. Where even is home now? Wherever you decide it is. Minmin squeezed her hand. That's the beauty of burning your life down, Vanessa. You get to build it back however you want. The car that picked Vanessa up was driven by Minnesio, Insu's second-in-command. He was massive, quiet, and surprisingly gentle as he helped her slightly drunk self into the back seat. Boss says you had a hard day, he said in careful English. Your boss is very perceptive. Boss is obsessed with you. Makes him sloppy. I've never seen him sloppy before. Minnesio's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Is good thing. Maybe. Or very dangerous thing. Not sure yet. That's comforting. Not trying to comfort. Trying to warn. But Minnesio's expression was kind. You're good for him. Just be careful. Men like Boss, when they love something, they hold too tight. Break things sometimes. Vanessa's heart stuttered on the word love. He doesn't, we're not. Not yet. Minnesio pulled up to the safe house. But we'll be. I see how he looks at you. Same way he looked at his mother's picture before he burned everything from that life. He burned her pictures? All of them. Said he didn't want to remember her the way she became. Only way she was before. Minnesio opened her door. Said he'd never let someone make him weak like that again. But here we are. He gestured to the building, where Vanessa could see a light on in the penthouse. Insu, waiting for her. I make him weak, she asked. You make him human, Minnesio corrected. Not same thing. But close. Insu was on the couch when Vanessa let herself in, laptop balanced on his knees, reading glasses perched on his nose. The glasses were new, or maybe just something he didn't wear around other people. They made him look academic. Softer. He looked up when she entered, and his entire face transformed. Relief, warmth, something that looked dangerously close to tenderness. Minmin got you drunk. Minmin is delightful and I love her. Vanessa kicked off her shoes, patted across the expensive hardwood. Also, she told me you're obsessed with me and it makes you sloppy. Minmin talks too much. But Insu was smiling, setting aside the laptop, pulling off the glasses. How drunk are you? Drunk enough to ask you questions I probably shouldn't. Sober enough to remember the answers. Vanessa sat down next to him, close enough that their thighs touched. Minnesio said you burned pictures of your mother. The smile faded. Insu's jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away. I did. Why? Because every time I looked at them, all I could see was how she'd let herself disappear. How she'd chosen him over herself. Over me. His hands flexed on his thighs. I loved her. But I was so angry at her for not fighting back. You were 14. Old enough to understand. Insu's voice was rough. Old enough to watch her make excuses for him every day. Old enough to plan how I'd kill him if he ever hit her. Did you? Kill him? No. The car crash did that for me. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were haunted. I was relieved. Does that make me a monster? Vanessa thought about Marcus. About the way her hands had shook for days after leaving him. About how she dreamed of him getting hit by a bus and woke up feeling guilty for the fantasy. No, she said quietly. It makes you human. Insu's hand found hers, laced their fingers together. His palm was warm, calloused. Safe. Minnesio thinks I'm going to break you. Hold on too tight. Are you? I don't know. The honesty in his voice was brutal. I don't know how to do this, Vanessa. I don't know how to care about someone without trying to control every variable. It's how I survive. I'm not a variable. I'm a person. I know that. He brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. But knowing it and acting on it are different things. If I start getting too possessive, too controlling, you have to call me on it. I need you to fight back. Oh, I will. Vanessa shifted closer, emboldened by soju and honesty. Trust me, I've had my fill of men who make me smaller. You try that? I'm gone. Good. Insu pulled her into his lap in one smooth movement, and Vanessa gasped, hands flying to his shoulders for balance. I don't want you small. I want you exactly like this. Sharp. Smart. Difficult. Difficult. You argued with me for 20 minutes yesterday about the proper way to structure a non-disclosure agreement. It was the most attractive thing I've ever witnessed. His hands settled on her waist, steady and sure. Marcus wanted you quiet. I want you loud. Vanessa's heart was racing. You're very good at saying things that should be red flags, but somehow aren't. It's a gift. Insu's thumb traced circles on her hip, and she shivered. Also, you're drunk. So I'm not going to do what I very much want to do right now. What if I want you to? Then you can tell me tomorrow when you're sober. He kissed her forehead, chaste and sweet and infuriating. I can wait. You're a criminal. Criminals don't have restraint. This criminal does. When it matters. Insu shifted her off his lap, gently, regretfully, and stood. Come on. Bed. You've had a long day. You're not going to seduce me? Not tonight. He held out his hand, helped her up. When I take you to bed, Vanessa, you're going to be completely sober and absolutely certain. No room for regrets. What if I don't regret anything? Then tomorrow, Insu said softly, you can show me. Vanessa woke up with a mild headache, a dry mouth, and the crystal-clear memory of sitting in Insu's lap and propositioning him. Oh my God, she muttered into her pillow. I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot, Insu's voice came from the doorway. You're hungover. There's a difference. Vanessa rolled over to find him leaning against her doorframe, coffee mug in hand, wearing workout clothes and looking unfairly attractive for. She squinted at her phone 6 in the morning. Why are you awake? I'm always awake at 6. Coffee? He held up a second mug. Vanessa sat up, accepted it gratefully. The coffee was perfect, the exact amount of cream and sugar she preferred. Which meant he'd been paying attention. About last night, she started. You asked me to seduce you. I declined on grounds of consent. Insu sat on the edge of her bed, casual as anything. Not much to discuss. I'm mortified. Don't be. I was flattered. His eyes held hers, dark and intent. And if the offer still stands now that you're sober, my answer is different. Vanessa's breath caught. Your answer is different. Yes. He set down his coffee mug with deliberate care. I want you, Vanessa. Have wanted you since I saw you hold your head up in that restaurant despite Marcus trying to destroy you. Want you even more now that I know you're brilliant and difficult, and don't need me to save you. Then why wait? Because I need you to be sure. Insu's hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Sure that this isn't just escape. Sure that you're choosing me, not just running from him. Sure that you understand what you're getting into. What am I getting into? A relationship with a man who has enemies. Who can't promise you normal. Who'll probably be overprotective and obsessive and will absolutely murder anyone who threatens you without losing sleep over it. His voice was steady, unflinching. I'm not a good man, Vanessa. I'm just trying to be good to you. Vanessa set down her own coffee, took his face in both hands, made him look at her. I left Marcus 5 days ago, she said clearly. I've had time to process. Time to think. Time to realize that good is relative and what I actually need is honest. You're honest, Insu. Maybe brutally so. But I'll take brutal honesty over gentle lies any day. You're sure? I'm sure. She kissed him, soft and deliberate. I'm choosing you. With full knowledge that you're morally ambiguous and occasionally frightening and probably going to drive me crazy with your overprotective tendencies. Insu smiled against her mouth. Probably. Definitely. Another kiss, deeper. But I'm choosing you anyway. He made a sound low in his throat, half growl, half groan, and then they were falling back into the bed, coffee forgotten, hands everywhere. Wait, Vanessa gasped as his mouth traced down her neck. The police. Marcus. Handled, Insu murmured against her skin. I gave them Marcus's buyers this morning. They'll be arrested by noon. Marcus will be implicated as a knowing accomplice. His father's lawyers can't save him from federal conspiracy charges. You? What? When? I work fast when I'm motivated. He raised his head, eyes wicked. And you in my bed is very motivating. You're insane. Probably. In-soo kissed her again, slow and thorough. You're still here, though. I'm still here, Vanessa agreed, and pulled him closer. 3 months later, Vanessa was on the phone with a hotel developer, explaining, very patiently, why Korean fusion didn't mean serving bulgogi pizza when In-soo's arms wrapped around her from behind. She leaned back into him automatically now, comfortable in a way that would have terrified her 3 months ago. I'm working, she murmured, hand over the phone. I know. His lips brushed her ear. I like watching you work. You get this tone, very professional, slightly terrifying. I learned from the best. She turned to kiss him quickly before returning to the call. No, Mr. Park, we've discussed this. Cultural authenticity isn't optional. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw your picture in the paper. Business consultant. Good for you, V.M. Vanessa's blood went cold. In-soo, reading over her shoulder, went very still. I'll call you back, Vanessa told Mr. Park, and hung up. When did he get out? Her voice was steadier than she felt. Yesterday. Early release. In-soo's arms tightened fractionally. I have people watching him. He won't get near you. He's texting me. That ends now. In-soo pulled out his own phone, typed rapidly. Minasio's already on it. Marcus's phone will stop working in approximately 3 minutes. And if he comes within a kilometer of you, I'll know. You can't just. I can. And I will. In-soo turned her to face him, his expression fierce. He doesn't get to intrude on your life, Vanessa. He doesn't get to make you afraid. Not while I'm breathing. And there it was, that intensity that should have been frightening, but instead felt like being seen. Being valued. Being protected, not because she was weak, but because she was precious. You're very possessive, Vanessa said, but she was smiling. You knew that when you chose me. In-soo kissed her, claiming and tender in equal measure. Still here. Vanessa thought about the life she'd built in 3 months. The job she loved. The apartment she'd moved into, with In-soo's help, though he'd tried to buy her a penthouse until she'd vetoed it. The friends she'd made through Min. The therapy she'd started, processing everything with Dr. Kim, yes, the same Dr. Kim, because apparently In-soo believed in referrals. She thought about the man holding her, who was morally ambiguous and occasionally frightening and absolutely obsessed with her safety and happiness. Still here, she said. Always. Good, In-soo murmured against her lips. Because you're mine. And I protect what's mine. The dragon tattoo shifted as he moved, alive in the afternoon light, and Vanessa traced the scales with her fingers and thought about how sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do was let yourself be saved. And how sometimes that danger was worth it. Please like and subscribe.